Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Love the energy.
Oh my God, you have to have energy working in education. How are you doing? So
Doing good.
yeah, I guess so. This is gonna go. I want to learn so much about you, and then I'll tell you some things. And if you want to kind of collaborate on ideas, then I am definitely down with it. So I guess just tell me how extraordinary you are.
Us or our school, or what's the scope of the extraordinary you want to hear?
Right. Just tell me a little bit about your school. That will help me out. And you can tell me a little bit about you as well.
You want to start?
Sure. So we are a 5 through 12 charter public school. And our focus is on having a strong academic program that's connected to the local region. And I would say, one thing in thinking of coaching that comes to mind is just some of the limitations of our structure. We have a middle school and an upper school, and in each division there is a leadership team, but only the principal is supervising the general ed teachers, and each principal works. I'm the upper school principal, and along with the middle school principal, I work with Maureen, who oversees curriculum 5 through 12, and the three of us are on an instructional leadership team where we are, driving the curricular instructional goals and observing classes and coaching teachers. And it's a lot of people to be coaching when there are just three people on that team. So I think that's some of the relevant information that comes to my mind. I don't know if you have other thoughts.
Yeah, I would say we are, like, in terms of our pressure points and our struggles, it's capacity. So I think we, in theory, would be doing a lot of coaching and follow-up, but because we're a charter, we don't have a central office. Our curriculum coordinators are also full-time teachers. We really can't ask them to be observing and giving feedback. And when we try to figure out how to bite off an amount of work that we can actually chew, we would just have trouble even knowing where to go in terms of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, all the different levels of people who need and would benefit from support and be helpful to kids. So we've spent more time creating professional development structures that kind of have a PLC moving and have some kind of tier 1 form to the collaboration. And we've done internal diagnostics around literacy that allow singleton teachers to have collaborative conversations around a central skill, but we haven't done nearly as much individual coaching and follow-up. And next year, in full transparency, neither of us is staying here. We've been here. I've been here 17 years, and Jane's been here 12 and 11.
Gosh.
I'll take the extra
year.
year.
It's a baker's
Thank
dozen.
You. Yeah, let's round up.
Wow.
And so we're actually starting our own educational consulting company to kind of support people with things, which is so that's a little bit of something about us. We're kind of taking that jump and hoping that we land on our feet and trusting that we will. And then also thinking about how to take care of this place on our way out, and thinking about what are the supports that might help the people who come into the role next with some of the areas we've seen are challenging.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a certain safety for teachers in getting coached by an outside voice where they're not feeling that threat of the supervision, whether it's there or just perceived.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, that has been one of the biggest concerns is this going to get back to my principal? Will she know? And a lot of it has been help with social emotional learning, help with how to stay engaged, and just reassuring that they are doing a good job. I think a lot of it has been massaging relationships, especially with feedback. So yeah, man, so that's cool to know. You guys are on a new journey. You guys are it seems difficult for principals to not only be the instructional leader, but to do professional development as well. And then coaching cycles, that's a ton of work. So I commend you guys for even doing the amount of work that it takes just to do all that.
Would you say, because you see different school structures, that it's unusual
It's, what do you mean? It's unusual.
to have a principal trying to do the supervision, the PD and the coaching cycles?
It's not unusual. It's overwhelming. Now it's the assumption that they can do both and. So it's like 3 jobs in one. It's the assumption that they would be great at it, but it's overwhelming for principals to do all 3. And like I said, it's totally different because those are separate positions. So it's okay. I see a lot of private and charter schools do all, but a lot of private public schools, traditional schools don't, right? They have the coaching person, they have the coordinator who does the PLCs, they have the coach who may do the PLCs and the, cycles, but the principal just meets with them and talks about what are some strategies we can work on together, and the formal observation. But I think the whole partnership is now you have the coach saying, hey, here are some things I notice and I see about the teachers. Are you seeing the same thing? Are we on the same page? So the stall or the feedback reflects the coaching. So it's sync. But yes, I do see private charter school principals struggle with this. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Oh my
validating
goodness.
as we're all here, like, are we doing a good job? Just like the teachers are doing.
You are doing a phenomenal job. Let me
Oh,
just
thank
say.
you.
Yes. You're still, I want to say you're still there, so you're doing great. But now that you're leaving, you're going to be in a different avenue. So that's another uphill battle.
Well, we're used to it. We're up
Yeah.
for the challenge, I think.
Yay! So yeah. So what, I guess what makes your school like unique? Like what drives your teachers every day? Because why do they want to be there? Why did you guys love it so much?
I think that it's a charter school in Massachusetts. I don't know if you've worked with any charters in Massachusetts. We tend to, well, I'm sure there's a different flavor every state based on the regulation. So we have a mission that is distilled into 3 key design elements. And we were one of the earlier charter schools. We were founded in 1998 as a middle school. We expanded to have a high school 10 years ago, sort of gradually. And the first key design element is really a focus on the local region, really knowing where you're from, being placed. And so we do a lot of work emphasizing raw data that's drawn from what's around us, primary source work, and identity as valuable for study, kind of. That's something sort of special to really draw from the local place for your curriculum that I think is a true thing about this place that people appreciate, though it is more work to gather that kind of stuff. And
That's every data. Yep.
another one is really being centered on safe and supportive relationships, or there's a strong academic program with an emphasis on skills. So we have a real 360 skills, discrete, like a long list of like what are the actual teachable and accessible social emotional skills and academic skills that go all the way around. So we, it's similar. It predates the Castle Wheel, but it's similar in except that it's a lot more outlined and broken down. So teachers use that across rubrics. How are students demonstrating and being taught the skills of a communicator, investigator, a self-directed learner, and a community steward? So we have our own language, but there are these bullet points that kind of make it tangible. So that's something, people are really feel empowered to do. And of course, it's more design work. So teachers like it that they're designers. They're really valued as designers. And then the last one is the structures of, well, how do we frame it? Why am I
Strong school community.
a strong school community? But we have a strong advisory program, and people like advising. They have a small advisory group, or it's smallest, like 15, and they really get to know the kids and be their primary point person for all things. And then also a strong school community with each other. I think people they have a lot of common planning with their departments. There's strong department bonds, strong grade level team bonds. There are good teaming structures, so people are connected. And I think they like that. I think that's part of what keeps them here.
Nice.
So they're working hard. They're doing advising roles. They're teaching electives. They're designing their own electives, which they're liking. But it's also more work. So I think a lot of things that draw people that they like here also require a certain level of skill and dedication that I think they appreciate about each other too, and they have it in it together. But there does tend to be turnover after time of people just feeling like, and you can make more money in a district and work less. And at a
Yep.
certain point that becomes attractive.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. So what about the data points? Like what data sources are you using? Is it just, are you using NWA? Because that's kind of how we kind of track our growth. We use some type of student assessment to see if what we're doing in the classroom is making a difference on assessments. So what type of assessments do you guys use for your students?
So we have some standardized external assessments. MCAS is our statewide assessment, which is a graduation requirement, and we do something called Apple testing in our Spanish program, and we have the National Latin exam for our Latin students. We use something called the College Work and Readiness Assessment Plus. And then this year, our instructional leadership team has pushed everyone in their respective courses to develop assessments measuring specific targeted literacy skills. And we chose those skills based on student performance on the MCAS. It was a perceived gap, and so it was an opportunity for everyone to see themselves as literacy teachers, and also to just be exchanging best practices related to the development of assessments, the use of student exemplars, the use of rubrics, and then finally the use of the data collected from the assessment to see patterns related to individuals and classes and subgroups based on significant social identity categories. And beyond some of those more centralized orchestrated efforts, we have many teachers in our upper school who course share and have shared assessments, so that even if the experience is different in many ways from one geometry class to another, it also is standardized in significant ways. And then beyond that, I think, again, every teacher is a designer. So teachers are ideally looking at the skills, understandings, and knowledge that they want the kids to develop, and figuring out what are the summative and formative assessments that they can use to gauge students' progress towards those goals.
Right. How is that working out? Because it just seems like these are great ideas, but I don't know about the consistency of that. I don't know, how is that working out for you guys?
The diagnostics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of, it was a big first step to get into a space where we had some visibility. Like an issue we've had is so many courses, so many departments.
Yes.
And, even before this year, it really wasn't even on the principal's plates to do it wasn't really on anyone's job description to go to class or know how it was going. Nobody was even trying. And so, starting to try, and you're looking at the scale of it, I think what this project has done is put something out in the visible space for everyone to look at, and knowing that it isn't perfect, it gives us a view of, and it gives teachers a view of each other that I think is opening some eyes about what can be a next step toward actually bringing grade level accountability and a scope and sequence that is an actual rigor progression. And I think it's also been really fascinating to see teachers struggle and learn about how to assess a specific skill. They'll give something and how to do it in a manageable way. And I think it gives the kind of stance toward, okay, I'm checking for skill I'm checking for skill development. I'm getting quick checks all the time for skill development. Like that's not even something people were trying to do. So it gives them like a sense of, oh, that's a thing to do. Oh, I have to do it. Oh, this is how I do it. This is how they do it. Oh, this is how these are the skills my kids have. And then, getting down the line to a point where you're looking at data with them and disaggregating it. Like we have a 5-year accountability cycle at the charter school office where we have to be renewed. And they're asking every focus group, including teachers, how are you disaggregating data? And teachers are like, to be honest, leaders are like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And
No.
so we're like trying to be, moving into a space where people are getting more literate about these conversations. They're presented with opportunities to look at those things, even though we know they're not getting there in a consistent level. This isn't just, and people get stressed, like, is this test really standardized? It's like, well, no, it's definitely not, but it's providing opportunity at a regular checkpoint of time for us all to be talking together about our practice. So that's more what it's doing.
I love that you guys are having this discussion about your practice. That is the first step, but I just worry because this is a lot that you guys are kind of taking on. And, the learning curve that you're expressing to me is big vertical, so it's like, let's climb this ladder now, go fast, and so it just seems like you're putting a lot of pieces out there and teachers are like, what? Oh, okay. Wait, you want me to do that too? And they're like, okay, and I can definitely see how this can be a lot and overwhelming, but it just sounds like maybe it's not.
No, it is.
But as a teacher, I would be like, what is going on? So I don't know. That's just I'm not inside. My last kind of question is, what would success look like to you?
I guess it depends. I think there are different markers along the path towards ultimate perfection. So I'm hesitating to try to figure out what's a meaningful marker. Do you mean, if you were to spend a year coaching, what progress would we want to see at the end of it?
Yes. Because you have to have a destination for me in order for me to mold them into that direction. And if you can't clearly identify that, we could talk about that together, but we kind of need to be on the same page so I can make sure we get them to the promised land.
Yeah. I think there's the overall bar, and then there's thinking of differentiating in terms of support of staff members. And I think if I think of each individual teacher, I have different goals for each one. I think overall, we want our teachers to be able to develop meaningful assessments as part of a broader process of backwards curriculum design. We want our teachers to really calibrate where their expectations should be, like what is exemplary work. And I think there are expectations that are academic, and there are also behavioral expectations. And certainly we're all calibrating and recalibrating both of those standards or sets of standards in the midst of the pandemic. But yeah, I think we'll have a situation where our English team gets together and throws student work on the table, and you might find that the 8th grade student work is better than the 10th grade student work. And there isn't really a clear scope and sequence. And so I think there needs to be a lot of work to figure out where are our expectations, and then how do we make them clear to the kids, and how do we work in a really deliberate, effective way to help each student reach whatever that bar might be. So that's a lot. I don't know.
I would say too, and that's speaking about the diagnostic, I think just as we've been observing class and not necessarily getting out what we're seeing, but I think something that we've observed. So first of all, we'd like teachers to be actually teaching this literacy skill. Okay, so we'd want to see support for how to do that and actual, like when you walk in a room and you're like, is anybody learning anything right now? What are they learning? Do they know what they're learning? Okay, so explicit skills goals that you can see evidence that there's instruction and practice. And then I think we'd like to see more student activity. What are all the kids doing? There's a lot of times that it's pretty boring for a long time. And if anyone's doing anything, it's maybe one kid who volunteered. How can we have all the kids do a lot, do more of the thinking, more of the time? So those are things we'd like, teachers to be able to shift. And then the high school in particular, with an 85-minute block every other day, how do we pace
Mm,
so that it's engaging?
engaging.
So yeah, I think explicit skill instruction in particular, there is a literacy goal here that we'd like to see evidence of growth in on the MCAS next year, based on this
Mhm.
big push that everybody sees themselves as a literacy teacher. So then we're supporting their capacity to feel like they know how to do that, and that kids can feel, oh, literacy is happening. I'm reading and writing at grade level all the time. The teachers know what grade level is, ultimately you're always measuring, as you just suggested, your success and student success.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm gonna just show you a couple of things and kind of show you the back end of our system. As you know, we help teachers get better faster. And that's by pretty much differentiating instruction with the teachers. So hopefully you can see I'm gonna only show you a couple of slides, and then I'm gonna show you kind of the back end of my data. So feel free to stop me anytime. A teacher says, Cassandra, I want you to see this recording. She records the video and it uploads to our server. We give timestamp feedback. Within 2 days, we debrief on Zoom. So every teacher is getting individualized instruction based on what is seen in the video. Okay.
You do a debrief meeting within 2 days?
Yes, it has to be in 2 days because, we don't remember anything after 1 day, barely. So it's usually a Zoom debrief in 2 days.
And how many coaches are on your staff?
So far, I only have 2. I only have a couple schools with me now, but it's a 1 coach to 8 to 10 teacher ratio. So 1 coach has about 10 teachers. So if you have 20 teachers, then I will have another coach. So our coaches are paid as with stipends per year. So depending on the amount of coaches I need, it supports the team.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And this is the last little piece I want to pretty much talk about. Last year we had a 89% retention rate because when teachers know that we care and we give them exactly what they need at the time they need it, they're so grateful. I have about $200 allocated for every teacher. So when they say, hey, this would be a great supplement to my curriculum, we just get it right away. We want to make sure they get exactly what they need. So they have access to resources. I am still a professor at the university, so anything they need, I have full access to. The goal is reading assessments. I use some type of assessment, like we can use the MCAT, like you said, to gauge if we're getting better. But it looks like you are kind of creating some sort of assessment, so we can use that created material to norm what it looks like across grade levels. But that just depends on you guys. We do administrative updates. So every month there's an update to let the principal know or leadership know exactly what each teacher is working on and their focus for the month. So there's no surprise that the teachers say, hey, we're working on call and response, or we're working on, classroom management. And the principal automatically knows because once a month they get a list of what the teacher is working on. Each teacher has a customizable goal. They get professional development points because this is also tied in with professional development. So, for example, if I come every 2 months, so about 4 or 5 times a year. And the professional development that I do is based on what I see in the classrooms. So that dictates what I see. And I'm going to show you this last piece, which is kind of the back end of my system. So you can kind of see what it looks like, what I have. So here's one of my schools. Here are all of my teachers. Here is this last teacher. What happens? I don't know. Can you see this first?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
so what happens?
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So what happens, we use the new teacher project. So TNTP, I'm pretty sure you're probably familiar with that as a rubric. But if you're on Danielson, I could definitely upload Danielson. There are so many coaching rubrics. So here is one
this
of my
school
teachers.
is not using any standard rubric right now. Maybe there is a culturally responsive teaching rubric that the department in Massachusetts put out that we've looked at, but it hasn't been widely used. So there's a lot of opportunity to kind of bring more formality to the teacher assessment.
Because so here's the lens on culturally responsive relevant, like that rubric is freaking awesome. It's just, what is your intent, right? If your intent is culturally relevant pedagogy in the classroom, that will be my lens of looking in the classroom. But right now, it's kind of like, what do I see the teacher needs? And then let's grow from there. Then once I get everybody pretty much on the same page of these are our norms, these are our expectations, now we can move into, now what does that mean being culturally relevant, right? Inclusive, how many girls are you calling on, right? What does that look like? And so here's the video of one of the teachers. I can ask a question and it's all tied to the rubric. I can make a suggestion. I can say a strength, or I can have a note. And like I said, I always tie it to the rubric. At the end, when the teacher uploads it, she lets me know what grade level, what lesson it is, give me a quick description of the lesson so I can kind of gauge what it is. Because what I've noticed is now with COVID, a lot of teachers have been uploading content, and I'm like, this is nice, but honey, you teach second grade and this is not grade level content. I understand that COVID students have not been in school, but that's why we scaffold. That's why we support students. We don't want to give them kindergarten work, although you assume that they're in the kindergarten level. That has been the latest conversation. So just to kind of see what standard they're on. And then this topics for conversation, some areas I think she needs to focus on based on my timestamps. And then the final thought. My final thought is usually, this is the one thing I want you to work on. And if she needs extra help, I'll give her a mini asynchronous video, watch this, and next week, I want you to work on this. Or I'll present a small PowerPoint and say, hey, here's some areas of growth I think that you can work on. Let's talk about that. And within 2 days, we debrief. And that's pretty much it. She can respond on the text as well. And I get emails, and she will get an email once the cycle is completed. Any questions?
That's cool. When you've worked, the schools you've worked with, has it been something that teachers have been required to do? Has it been something they've opted into? How have they found the experience?
So here's the thing. Phrase forward. Let me just say, nobody, when they first heard it, they're like, nobody wants to be recorded. I think what happened is when it was administrative led, like say, hey, this is something we're doing. We're going to try. I think this would be a great opportunity for us. I don't see any of the recordings. I don't see, I don't get to get anything. I think more teachers bought into it. Some used it more than the 13 times a year. And some did use it less. And so it was just up to the principal. Did you feel like it? But I think within 3 to 4 months, principals pretty much they already knew who was gonna not use it. And she would just say, hey, I would just alert and say, hey, I didn't get any videos from this person. And then she would say, hey, turn in your videos or not. So it just really depends. But usually my new teachers, maybe 1 to 3 years, were like, give me more. I want more. I want more. Some of my veteran teachers, it took about 4 months for me to build the trust with them, to let them know that I know what I'm talking about, even though I may look younger than you, I know what I'm talking about, and giving feedback and alternative videos to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. So they were more likely to be involved. So yeah, but it does have to be a top-down approach, unless you're gonna do a volunteer, but it must be a top-down approach. Hey, we're all doing this. We're gonna see what happens and we'll go from there.
And have you been able to go through a cycle long enough to measure student result growth?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up. Let me see if I can find it. Let me share. I do have the NWEA data.
I guess my other big question is just pricing.
Sure. Typically it's $12,000 per teacher per year. And that comes with the device. Each teacher gets an iPad, a recording tripod, and I put the apps on their device. The first is onboarding. It's usually a 3-day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm working with, I think, 8 teachers at one school now. It came up to be about $64,000, but the principal was able to use professional development funds to move it in. And then, like I said, I come at least 4 to 5 times a year and then do an overview on what I'm seeing in the classroom and what are our next steps.
So sorry, you come 4 times a year. And then would you mind reminding me what's the frequency of the video feedback?
Bi-weekly. So
Okay.
yeah, so typically December is kind of a wash. It may be like 1 week in December and maybe 1 or 2 weeks in January, but it really just depends, but it is typically bi-weekly. Some of the newer teachers, like I said, they want more and they do more. If they upload it, I'm definitely, my coaches give feedback if they upload more, and that's fine. But we meet bi-weekly. We set the bi-weekly schedule of our meeting, and then teachers know they have to have their video uploaded before our meeting, 1 or 2 days before.
Is the video a full class period length, or did you ask for like a certain segment?
So so for example, first I just say record a lesson, and it's been up to 30 minutes. I've watched 45 minutes. I've even watched an hour video. And then eventually based on the professional development, it's like, okay, now this is what I want to see. This is, show me what this looks like in your classroom. So it may be classroom management, it may be proximity, something so small as proximity. I will model that and demonstrate it. If I see the majority of teachers need that, I will model that, or how to keep students engaged is the big one. I will model what that looks like, and then I will expect to see that in their classroom. So the next video that you show me should be that. So that's usually after a professional development.
So is your pricing scaled if you scale out more, like you're saying it's $12,000 for one teacher, but 8 teachers with 64,000. If you wanted to do something bigger, does it continue to scale in a different, like a disproportionate way?
Yes, it does. So I think if it's more than 25 or 50, I have to look at my pricing sheet. Then it goes down to $8,000 per teacher. So the more teachers, the less it costs.
Okay.
So it would be about $8,000 a teacher. Yeah, I could definitely send you a pricing sheet so you can see.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, because we'll share about this with our head of school, just as like an example of something that could support the ILT next year, and support the teachers ultimately to have that safe space to get the feedback. And if you did have any results information to share too, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking. Let me pull up. I think I can find the data that let's see. Let me see if I can find something really quick. What is this? Let's see. This is 2020. Okay, I'll show you this, and then I'll show you this year. Let me just say this school is about to close. So this is not spectacular by anything. This was COVID year as well. So let me share my screen. I'll share you 1 year, and then I'll show you this year. I don't know, can you see that? That's kind of crummy. So here's one of the schools I work with. And if you can notice, this was 2021. And what I'm gonna show you next is 21 to 22. So this is when we first got started. We did a deep dive into data. Mainly the area of growth was, I said, you know what? Let's take a look. Here are our observed growth areas. And so we're making gains. And, I went over kindergarten, here's first, second, but the triangle is where we're supposed to be, right? That is our norm. And so if we're looking in 5th grade, our students regressed. And in 6th, 7th, and 8th, they're not making any gains. So what can we do? We disaggregate the data much more. We broke it down into areas of growth. So we looked at math and reading. And I think math, our focus area was reading, right? Literacy content, especially younger levels, was phonics. Let's get, phonics fluency. How do we get them reading more? And then the older grades was reading comprehension. How do we get them to understand the content to apply it to everyday life? Math, same thing, hands-on activities, but the major area that we struggled in was measuring. That was the area of growth. So anyway, here is, like I said, we regressed. Here is our, here's our language arts. Reading as well, we didn't make it in certain grade levels, we did. 5th, 6th, we exceeded our expectations. And then here's language. Language is pretty much writing in NWEA. here's our writing efforts. And if you notice, our writing efforts in 5th grade, again, we regressed. And so that is, let's see, that is last year. Let's see, let me show you this year. Okay. Here's this year. So we've been working our butts off. We've been working with the teachers. I've been giving feedback and support. Although we have not made gains in certain areas, we have made tremendous gains in other areas. So kindergarten, we're still working with our babies with sounds and just ongoing practicing sounds. Last week, I ordered decodable books. So because their curriculum didn't have that, so we ordered decodable books for kindergarten, and we're really practicing that fluency sounds. 1st grade made the goals, 2nd grade made it, 3rd grade, we didn't make it, but we're getting closer and we're making gains, which I am so proud of my team. I'm gonna meet with them tomorrow. I'm going to Gary, but I meet with them tomorrow. And 7th grade, we struggle, but 8th grade, we're there. So to see gains is great. I'm very excited. We're starting to see gains. We're starting to be on the same page when it comes to data. Language arts, the same thing. Kindergarten, she's working really hard. 1st grade is killing it. 2nd grade is, doing a wonderful job. 3rd grade, we're still 4th, same thing. 5th grade is killing it. 6th grade, we didn't make any.
Oh, now we're allowed. Okay.
Oh
All right. I was just doing a chat, like our other laptop died, and this one's also at 10%. So if we go again, I'm so sorry. It's just a technology issue.
Oh my God, I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, so well, I can send you the data. I'm gonna black out some things and I'll send you kind of growth from one year to the next.
Great.
It's not extraordinary, but we are making gains. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, it's a really exciting thing that you're doing. How long have you been in business?
Since 2018. So I'm still a professor at Indiana University. So I'm
2008 or 18?
18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm still looking to do this as at the university, but they're like, oh, that's too much. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it on my own. Here we go.
Good for you.
And I know you mentioned this school with that data is a school that's really struggling and closing. Has that been the kind of the schools that are gravitating towards it, those who are really feeling like they're more in trouble, or what's the profile of those who are showing interest in the work?
Just principals who are looking for mentorship for their teachers. It's usually, I typically get female principals who really are worried about their teachers, genuinely worried about their teachers, and they want their teachers to have mentorship. They just feel that they can't give them what they want. Some of the principals feel like they've been out of the classroom for so long, they can't give them and pinpoint exactly what they need to make gains. And then the schools that are failing, and they've been failing for years, and they've tried all the things that they've tried, and they usually reach out to me in some sort of desperation. And I just help them as best I can.
Well, it's really interesting that you're noticing a difference by the gender of the principal.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that we're interested in kind of exploring more. I feel like everybody knows it about education, but it's not really talked about that much in terms of what does that mean on the ground for all the people involved. And I know it's important to both of us. So I'm happy to hear you naming it also.
So yeah. So I'll send you the price sheet. I'll send you a sample contract if you guys want to look at it. So you can kind of see the payment structure and how that's laid out. And then just feel free, maybe we can circle back in a couple of weeks, and then I can see what I could do to help you or send you resources. If we don't work together, that's fine. I just, hopefully I can help.
Okay, it's been really nice to meet with you and hear about this. It's a really interesting concept, and I think would definitely be really supportive. I think it's going to be a question of just internal capacity and budget for next year, and then priorities for the leadership team. But I think it's a really interesting option in the mix.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.